you have to be very careful when you're putting electrical activity into your body. There's over 10,000 studies demonstrating the benefit of meditation in our lives and its ability to stave off age-related cognitive decline.
What does the business side of things look like?
It's actually the very first tool that you can buy that has both EEG and FNIRS in it.
What does the Muse data say about how people are using it?
Our approach really is to teach you to fish rather than fish for you.
Today, I have a special guest, Ariel Garten, one of the co-founders of Muse, a headband that helps us to be better at meditation, to optimize our brain, and to see what's happening inside. Ariel, thank you so much for joining me in the conversation.
Oh, it's my joy and pleasure to be here. Hello.
I have to say that I'm all about testing all kinds of devices and technology to optimize my health, my well-being, and just see what's out there. And it seems like you have been at it for quite a while. It's been, I would say, the biggest portion of your career. What led you to actually pick that as a field?
So I was fascinated by the brain from a very young age. I was really curious about how it is that we think, we feel, we experience life, and how the organ, the thing in our head, creates the experiences that we have. I went to school for neuroscience, and then I became a psychotherapist. And along the way, I started working with an early brain-computer interface device back in 2000. And we were using it to actually help us see what was going on inside the brain. And we could translate brain activity into sound and light. And I looked at it and said, oh my God, this is incredible. We can actually have an indication of what's going on inside our head using this technology. And so I then took it out of the lab and started the process of creating Muse with Chris Amity and Trevor Coleman, my co-founders, all with the desire to help people understand their brain, how it works, and how to optimize it.
You have been at it for more than 16 years now, so it's quite a journey, I have to say. What do you see as the biggest difference between when you were just starting off and you were probably not so sure what you are after, and today being in your shoes for quite a long time, I would say?
Yeah, so I began this work in 2001, when it was really just a research lab. It was not something that you could imagine was going to be in your own home. The first Muse device came out in 2014, and the first thing we came out with was a brain sensing headband that could help you meditate. So it was a slim, beautiful little device that could track your brain activity and give you real-time feedback on your brain while you meditate. And it was right at the beginning of the wearable cycle. So at that point, we had the first wearables out. We had the Nike Fuel Band, the Jawbone Up. Fitbit wasn't popular yet. It was the very early wearables. And at the same time, we started to see an increase in awareness of brain health. It was declared the decade of the brain. So we were starting to see the improvements in both understanding the brain and being able to interact with it, and the shift towards people being able to do this in their own homes and take their health, whether it was measuring their heart rate, their steps, now their DNA. So starting to take their health into their own hands. And so we've seen a tremendous shift from a decade ago or 12 years ago when this was totally novel to now when it's kind of accepted that you're going to have wearables and they're going to help you track your body, and those wearables are going to help you improve your health and communicate better to your doctor and. The space of the brain is still new, so there's still this novelty, excitement piece there, but it's really becoming commonplace to be able to track not just your body, but your brain and be able to do something with that data.
Muse has been used in hundreds of different studies all over the world in various, I would say, areas of the demographic. What have you learned from all of those studies as like some of the interesting takeaways that you can then apply to your further research?
Oh, those are great questions. So, Muse has been used both as a clinical grade EEG. So, neuroscience labs will use Muse to run their neuroscience projects out in the field. And it's also been used interventionally as a meditation tool and as a sleep tool to help improve meditation and sleep. So, in some of the EEG studies, what we've learned, there's lots of studies that come out of Dr. Olaf Krieg-Olsen's lab at UBC, and he was able to demonstrate that exercising in nature actually has a greater impact on your mind than just exercising in a gym. He was able to look at the EEG of a baseball player before he makes his perfect swing, and was able to see the differences in the brain of a perfect bat versus one that doesn't go well. And then we've even had researchers who are using Muse to detect stroke in the emergency room, and they were able to do that faster than using an MRI. So it's been really interesting to see the different ways and the different insights you can get on the brain when you can kind of see what's happening in the real world. Another cool study from Dr. Krieg-Olsen looked at monks meditating in the Himalayas, and he looked at different kinds of meditation and demonstrated that a focused attention meditation improves your focus and attention more than a compassion-based meditation. So there's been all sorts of research. And then when we look at the meditation intervention research, so Mayo Clinic has run lots of studies using Muse as a meditation tool. So they've given it to breast cancer patients, to long COVID patients, to fibromyalgia patients. And in each of those instances, actually meditating with the device improves outcomes. So it's been able to really prove that meditation has a huge impact on your brain and on your body, and decreasing your stress, decreasing your anxiety, and even doing things like improving long COVID symptoms.
Maybe we can talk a little bit more about meditation, because I feel like that's a kind of an evergreen topic that we could talk about over and over again. And I will be very honest, I have never really found my way to a consistent meditation practice. It's always on and off. I do it for a little bit, and then I kind of stop. And I have to say, I've been quite consistent with a lot of other habits that I have built over my life. But meditation is a hard one for me, even with Muse. But of course, it makes it a lot easier than meditating without, because you are just tapping in the dark. I think with Muse, you at least get a little bit of pointer of what you should be doing. But what do you think is the state of meditation for the general population today? Because I think that there was a big hype about it, and now I think it kind of stabilized, but you definitely have some interesting insight into how people meditate and what's the best way to build up a good practice.
Sure. So I would say there was definitely a hype about it. Sort of starting 2012, we started to hear about meditation as being meaningful, and then the hype grew. When we say it's stabilized, I think it refers to the fact that it's now kind of accepted that this is a thing that we should do. And the studies definitely prove it. There's over 10,000 studies demonstrating the benefit of meditation in our lives and its ability to stave off age-related cognitive decline, to improve our work productivity, and on and on. Definitely more people are meditating, but it still is a hard thing to do. We made Muse because meditation is hard. You sit there and you have no idea what's going on in your own mind. Many people have no idea what to do. And so with Muse, we make it easier by giving you real-time feedback on your brain while you meditate, showing you what you're doing, and gamifying it so that you can stay on the wagon, so that you can continue your practice. Even so, meditation takes consistent effort. Most people wonder things like, how can I maintain my practice? And first of all, doing it in fits and starts is better than not doing it at all. So first of all, congratulate yourself for Lupo for actually doing it, for taking the time, even if you fall off the wagon, get back on it. I actually have a question for you. Why do you think you fall off the wagon?
I talk about it quite often. I think that there is so many things that I would like to incorporate into my life, and it's all about priorities. And I think that I would say most of it is that I tend to prioritize other things. But after all, I end up scrolling Instagram anyway at some point in the day. So it's not really about not having the time, but maybe not building a consistent habit that I would do it every morning or every evening, and it will be my part of my practice, because certainly there is time for it in the day. I could fit it in for sure, but I think that and I talk about it quite often also. I would love to be stretching every day, in the morning, in the evening. I would love to be doing a lot of things to optimize and fine-tune my health. And I think meditation practice or reading a book at night, these I think are great things. And you have mentioned it, that it's been proven by, meditation, probably thousands of different studies. We collectively now agree it helps. It still is quite challenging for us to build that behavior. And I feel it has something to do with habit building.
Let's talk about this for a moment. So you've hit on some important points. One is, if you do it consistently at the same time and make it part of your routine, it's going to happen. Not a day goes by when I don't brush my teeth, because I get out of bed, I go and I brush my teeth, and it's the first thing that I do. And if I don't brush my teeth, it feels yucky. And when I do brush my teeth, it feels better. And it is consistently at the same time. So one of the best ways to build a meditation habit is to choose a time in the day when you can do it consistently. So maybe that's the morning, maybe that's on lunch break, maybe that's right after you come home from work, right before you go to bed. Whenever it is, just choose the time and stick to it. Put it in your calendar and make it a thing you have to do. The next is find your motivation. So how do you feel after you meditate? How do days when you meditate go?
Oh, I feel amazing. There's no doubts. And it helps me to be more calm, relaxed. There is no doubt whatsoever that I feel better after meditating. And to just piggyback on what you said previously, I think that what is challenging for me is that I'm still trying to optimize my sleep schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, the baseline is I want to be waking up and going to bed at the same time every day. And with travel and some social life, etc., it's quite challenging. But I think that I'm building my habit towards that. So I'm definitely on track.
So first of all, I completely agree that sleep is fundamental and important. And going to bed and waking up at the same time is key. If you've got a couple nights and you've got a social life and you miss it, that's totally okay. But try to, stay on track the other times. As many of you know, or as you know, Muse also has sleep support. So the Muse S gives you feedback to help you fall asleep. We even have meditations that you can do as you're falling asleep. So you can put it into your daily calendar to put your Muse on. If you've got the Muse S or the Muse S Athena, put your Muse on as you're going to bed, lie there, put on a 10-minute meditation with Muse, and then put on a program that allows Muse to help you fall back asleep. So there's, ways that you can even fit it in and make it really supportive of your sleep schedule. And a meditation right before you go to sleep considerably helps you improve your sleep. So that's, if sleep is something that's important, tagging meditation on that could then be something that, you get a double win. This is also the idea of habit stacking. So if there's something in your day that you already do, tag the habit next to it. So put the habit right, sandwich it with it. And then you will always just be like, okay, every day when I drink my coffee, I then go and read the newspaper. Every day when I drink my coffee, I then go and do my meditation with it, whatever it's going to be for you. So habit stacking is key. But I want to get back to this idea of how good you feel after you do it. So can you take a moment and imagine yourself, if you meditated every day, who you would be?
Well, I can certainly imagine that.
What do you get? Tell me.
I think that I would be a lot more grounded.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel more calm, relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I would also feel more productive as an outcome of all of that.
Yeah.
And I will be able to show up with more energy. That's the picture that I have.
Oh my God, that sounds
if I meditate
really good.
every day.
That sounds really good. How badly do you want that you?
Yeah, I have quite an appetite for sure.
Amazing. Now that you feel that motivation, how much do you want to go meditate today or tomorrow?
Now I have a question back to you to kick off that practice. If you would be in a position to decide between stacking it up with something in the morning or something in the evening, what would be your choice and why?
This is a very common question, which is essentially, when is the best time to meditate? And it really varies from person to person. So for me, with my schedule, the morning, I do a meditation when I lie in bed, because that's the time that I have. And if my kids start hollering at me, I can at least say, I'm still in bed. Get my meditation out. But a lot of people are not morning people, and it doesn't feel good to meditate in the morning because you feel like you're going to fall back asleep. So choose the time that works best in your schedule for you. So it's not a question of should this be a morning thing or should this be an evening thing. They both have their benefits. The question is, when's going to feel right for you to land in your schedule? And for me, I can get in my evening meditation after my kids have gone to sleep. And it ends up being quite late. So I prefer to put my meditation there in the evening rather than take the time to exercise, and rather exercise in the morning. So it's really a scheduling question, and both are great. The best time to meditate is the time when you'll actually do it consistently.
Well, like with many other things in life, when you actually do it, that makes the most impact. But what does the Muse data say about how people are using it? Is it also pretty much undecided, or you see some patterns of when people turn to using Muse the most?
That's a great question. So the number one time to use Muse is actually 7 a.m. The number two time is in the evening, like closer to 8, 9, 10 p.m. And then the number three time is 6 a.m. So that's actually what motivated us to create the Muse-esque, because we saw that a lot of people were doing it in the evening. And when we reached out and to customers in general, and it was like, okay, why are you doing it at these? Tell us the time that you do it and tell us why. It turned out that people were doing it at night to help them fall asleep. And so that actually prompted us to make the Muse S, the soft generation of the Muses, so that you could wear it while you were falling asleep, and then so that we could build additional experiences to track your sleep, help you sleep better, do neurofeedback, etc. So there's this tight link both between meditation and preparing you for the day, as well as a tight link between meditation and the quality of sleep that you get afterwards.
So in the ideal scenario, you meditate in the morning and you meditate in the evening as well, and then you pick the best of both worlds pretty much.
But choose whatever, don't make it bigger than it needs to be. Choose one. If one's working, then you can add a second.
Of course. Like baby steps. I get that. You mentioned that the first device was released in 2014, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
How did it evolve to 2025 today? What have been the improvements to the device as it is available currently? And maybe you can also sneak peek some of the things into the future.
I ran to get some example muses. So this was the first muse that came out. And it's a little bit bulkier in the ears. This came out in 2014. It was our very first experience
We have the presentation of all the innovation.
History.
Yeah, I love it.
So the first one was EEG only, and it came with a very simple, very beautiful neurofeedback experience to help you meditate, where when you focused on your breath, you could hear birds, and as your mind wandered, you could hear rain. And then we evolved that into Muse 2, and Muse 2 became a sleeker format. We made the technology smaller, and then we also added, on top of the EEG sensors, a PPG sensor that could track your heart. And we expanded into meditations for your heart, your breath, your body. And I actually just had a researcher contact me and said that they did a study on Muse's heart meditation, where you're listening to the sound of your heart like the beating of a drum, and it actually improved people's interoception. So came out well in the study. And then from there, we evolved into the Muse S, which was a soft form factor, which could be used for sleep as well. And then we really did a deep dive into the world of sleep, sleep being a very important aspect of your brain health. And so we created a tool that can track your sleep as effectively as a sleep lab. And it's actually now widely used by researchers to help them do sleep research. So instead of sending their subjects into a sleep lab, which is super uncomfortable, they send them a Muse, and it tracks their sleep at home. And so we have studies in Parkinson's patients, Alzheimer's, kids with autism, and more, done by research institutions around the world. And then we developed something that we call the digital sleeping pill. So it gives you bio and neurofeedback as you're falling asleep to help you fall asleep faster. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, it then helps you fall back asleep. And that was proven to improve sleep quality by over 20%, which is awesome. And then just now, we've come out with our latest device, and this is the Muse S Athena. So it's the same form factor as the Muse S, but instead of just the EEG technology and the PPG...
It looks like it's loaded with a lot of sensors.
Yes. So this is the Muse S, and this is the Muse S Athena. And in these little windows, we now have what's called FNIRS technology, frontal near-infrared spectroscopy. So you get all the insights from EEG that you always got, and frontal near-infrared spectroscopy measures the blood flow of your left and right hemisphere. So we're actually looking at the amount of blood that goes to your prefrontal cortex, left and right. And then we give you neurofeedback and exercises to be able to track and strengthen the blood oxygenation of your brain.
Is the Muse S Athena out in the market already, or?
It is. We are crazy back ordered. There's been a lot of demand, both from researchers and from consumers. But yes, so if you put in your order now, you'll be in line to get the next batches as they come from the factory. And it's crazy exciting. It's actually the very first tool that you can buy that has both EEG and FNIRS in it, in this slim, sweet little form factor. So you really have like a research lab in your own hands.
Wow. How do we use so much data? And what have you seen as the outcomes of people getting this new headband on their heads?
So the beautiful experience that we crafted inside of the Muse S Athena, there is an owl flying, and it feels like you're playing a game, but what you're doing is you're actually giving neurofeedback to your brain and encouraging it to increase the blood oxygenation. So we all know that our body needs oxygen. Oxygen then translates into energy in our cells. And what we're doing here is we're able to track how much oxygen is being demanded by your brain and actually train your prefrontal cortex to demand more blood and more oxygen, thereby bathing it with more nutrients and giving it more energy and ability. And research has demonstrated that this kind of prefrontal cortex neurofeedback on your oxygen levels actually leads to better focus and better performance.
Do you also work with HRV in some aspect of the device?
Yeah, so the PPG that I referenced before, that's a photoplasmiograph, that's tracking your heartbeat. And so it's from your heartbeat that you get your HRV. So from the Muse S devices, anybody who already has any of our Muse devices, you know that when you do your meditation session, you see your heart data. And in the heart graph, what you're actually seeing is your HRV. So cool fact, as you breathe in, your heart rate increases. As you breathe out, your heart rate decreases. And the HRV that we're looking for is the change between your highest heartbeat on your in-breath and your lowest heartbeat on your out-breath. And when you are able to have big separation in high heartbeat on your in-breath and low heartbeat on your out-breath, you have a high HRV. What this means is that your body is able to respond efficiently to stressors. So when you breathe in, your heart rate increases, which is increasing your blood pressure. And then when your blood pressure gets really high on your top of your in-breath, your vagus nerve comes in, kicks in really quickly if you're healthy and says, hey, blood pressure is way too high, let's bring it down. And so that's why as you breathe out after your vagus nerve kicks in, your heartbeat slows. And the longer your out breath, the slower your heart rate gets. And so a big difference between your heartbeat on your in-breath and your heartbeat on your out-breath means that your vagus nerve is responding really effectively and bringing you into rest and digest, parasympathetic. And that's why people with high HRV are people who are healthy and less stressed. So a little bit of science there. Back to the Muse, what you're actually seeing in your graph is you're seeing your heartbeat as it rises and falls and rises as it falls. So you're seeing actually the visual representation of your HRV, so you can get a greater understanding of what it means.
Maybe here comes my next question, and that is if the device itself can be used to actually work with HRV and see some impact on it, or if it just basically tells me what the number is. But are there some exercises that are tailored towards that?
Totally. So the breath-focused exercises are tailored to helping you shift your breath rates so that you can increase and improve your HRV. So breathing exercises, we know that physical exercise improves your HRV because it improves your cardiovascular system overall. But breath-related exercises and calming exercises actually help you shift your HRV. And the heart exercise that I referenced earlier, where you're hearing the beating of your heart, you're literally hearing what your HRV means. So as you breathe in, your heart rate is increasing. As you breathe out, your heart rate is decreasing. And you're actually hearing that shift. And you're learning how to guide the shift so that you end up in a slower heartbeat on your exhale with longer exhales.
And this is a topic that is, I think, very interesting to me. And there are some neuromodulating devices out in the market that help you to that claim that they help you to improve your HRV, but just basically by you wearing them and not doing anything. How you look at these kind of devices? Do you trust them? Do you think that it's something that we should be doing? Versus what I understand, your approach is to actually guide the body to do it rather naturally. And please correct me if I get it entirely wrong, but I'm trying to grasp something that I'm fascinated by, but I don't really understand all the specifics.
You nailed it. So our approach really is to teach you to fish rather than fish for you. So we train your brain, your body to understand what it needs to do, and to teach you how to get there and to help you listen and know what state your body should be in and then be able to respond and react accordingly. So we're very into training you so that you become stronger, more knowledgeable, more aware, and can apply these tools and techniques yourself. The same goes for HRV. There are devices that stimulate your vagus nerve. So vagus nerve stimulation is becoming more popular, and vagal nerve stimulation really directly stimulates your vagal nerve in order for it to kick into rest and digest. And those can be beneficial for people with, in some conditions. But everybody responds differently. For some people, the stimulation is too much. There's still sort of debate into which branches of the vagus nerve you really need to stimulate to see an effect. Do you really get an effect? I was talking to somebody who makes a vagal nerve stimulator the other day. So, it can be helpful, but you have to be very careful when you're putting electrical activity into your body to make sure that it's something that's been created by a very reputable company who has tested it rigorously, as opposed to kind of off-the-shelf TDCS kind of biohacker experiences. So be cautious.
Yeah, of course you want to be careful, but I think that it was great basically narrative that you mentioned, learning how to fish versus fishing for me, which I think makes total sense. I also wanted to ask you, because we talked about the amount of research behind Muse, and considering that you have been at it for almost past 2 decades, what is the magnitude of the business side of it, if you could speak to some numbers, and how big is the user base of relying on the product today? Because, of course,
Sure.
being in the market for so long is impressive. Being part of all of those studies is a huge achievement. But what does the business side of things look like? Because that's also an angle of the product that I would like to learn a little bit more about.
Sure. So there are hundreds and thousands of Muses out in the wild. So we've sold hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Muses. There's over 500,000 Muse users around the world. So over 500,000 users who've improved their meditation or their sleep or their brain health using Muse. So it's been incredible to be able to create such a community of people. We didn't actually imagine we would have this level of impact when we started. We knew we could do something that was going to help you understand your brain, but to actually have this level of longevity. And, I run into people and they tell me, oh my God, I've just finished my 2000th Muse session straight. So, people who've been musing for 2,000 days straight, who've actually been able to start and stick with the habit and see the benefits, and who, stick with us from device to device. So I think when our newest device came out, about the Athena, just launched maybe a month ago, about half of the people who purchased were existing users who were so excited by everything we make, they wanted the next device. And another half of the people who purchased were net new. So people who'd never used a brain sensing device before, but understood the value of it and the interest of it, and jumped into it new for the first time. So we're seeing both a mix of a very dedicated group of people who just love it, as well as people recommending it to their friends and family, or people just discovering it online or on a podcast like this, coming in new for the first time and saying like, wow, I didn't know you could do this. This is so cool.
I love companies that manage to marry the hardware and software piece together, and it seems like both parts of the product are equally important to you, because the headband itself without the app would probably not make that much sense. What's been the biggest challenge or maybe a few challenges on that journey to be able to pull it off?
So many challenges. Oh my God, it's not easy. I mean, when we first started, there was nothing like this that existed. And so we had to go from wet electrodes with lots of wires to like a sleek dry sensor system that anybody could use to get good signal quality on their head in 3 minutes or less. If you go into an EEG lab, it takes like 20, 30 minutes to get your EEG set up and get good signal quality so that you can do your experiment. And with Muse, maybe it takes 3 minutes. And then people are like, oh my God, it's taking 3 minutes. It's like, it just took you only 3 minutes to get great signal quality on a device. So, hardware was always a challenge. And like Chris Amony is the technical genius behind the hardware. And our entire hardware team, our head of hardware, Natalie, is amazing. So that's its own challenge. And then managing obviously supply chain and tariffs. It's a constant fascinating, process that this continues to be manufactured and gets into people's hands and is awesome. Then on the software side, I think the first challenges that we had were around making sense out of brain data and making it meaningful to somebody. So, if you get an EEG in the hospital, it's a bunch of squiggly lines. Cool, yeah, but what does it mean? How is this meaningful? How is this actionable? So the first really difficult hurdle to overcome, way back in 2010, 2012, was figuring out how you take this data and make it meaningful. And we did that by translating EEG data into guiding sounds. So you can actually hear what's going on in your brain and then be guided to make it better. And that was really the genius of Trevor Coleman, one of our early co-founders, who sort of figured out the metaphor and the way that we communicate about it. And then from there, software constantly has its challenges because we work on iPhone, you have to work on every version of it, work on Android, which is even harder because there's so many different Android devices and they all have their own, quirks and particularities. And so we have software releases every 2 weeks, constantly just keeping up with the state of the art across all of the devices and the new Bluetooth systems and everything. And then responding to user feedback, and then also building the new experiences. And I would say if there is one thing I don't like about the Muse app, it's that there is so much in there. It's almost sometimes hard to know what to do because we keep building these cool things and we want to deliver them to you. And we can do this and this and this. And so the app has so much in it, it can be a little bit complicated to find, what you want. And so we've then, built layers on it, like the Today screen and things to guide you through your journey and programs to take you through. But it's a challenge to keep up with all of the different operating systems and keep everything working smoothly. So it's a nonstop job to maintain the engine that is Muse behind it.
Well, I would say I know a thing or two about the software piece of it, but I know literally nothing about the hardware. But it seems like you have managed to find a good balance between adding new things, but also making it accessible for the new people that come and join so they don't get entirely lost and they have a good starting point.
Thank you. Yeah, it's constantly top of mind. How do we introduce you to these devices? How do we make it easy? How do we make it simple? How do we help you integrate it into a natural way in your life?
The fitness trackers, I would say, are now so penetrated in the market. I could even say that everyone has at least one, which I know is not true, but many people rely on different trackers, and it's fairly common. Where do you see the future of also learning about our brain and what's happening there? Because that's an area where the trackers are not tapping into, but you are. And do you see that being more widespread, that we would be also absorbing all the information of what's happening within our brains on a more frequent basis going forward?
Yeah. So up until now, there's really been, no way to tap into your brain and understand it. And so the first things that we focused on are kind of the major pillars of brain health. So, in order to have a healthy brain, you want to make sure you sleep well, you meditate, you keep it stimulated and engaged, and that you also have physical exercise and good nutrition. So, for us, as we kind of built this brain health suite, we focused on these important pillars of brain health: clarity, strength, and then recovery. And as I look to the future, I think we're going to get better at tracking markers of brain health. So we already have something called the alpha peak score. So that's a marker that helps you track your alpha peak frequency throughout the day and throughout your life. And that is one marker of brain health. We have another marker, which is the recharge score. We have cognitive tasks in the app, and with those, we're also able to get a different marker of brain health called ERPs. And so those are only available to researchers now, but over time, those will also come into the consumer app. And so, we're going to end up with more and more fine-grained data about our brain and how it's functioning from multiple angles. So, we started just with EEG, now we have EEG and FNIRS. You can also look at the oxygenation. So we're going to end up with more and more data. The trick is going to be making it into more and more actionable data, meaningful markers that you can track and then that you can improve, because tracking is kind of useless if you don't have the activity that goes along with it to improve. So that's why for all of our tracking, we always have improvements. You want to see your alpha peak, get your recharge score, you want to meditate more. We track your sleep really effectively, and then we give you tools like the digital sleeping pill to help you sleep better. You can track your mental strength with FNIRS, and then you can do exercises to help you improve it. So I think there's also, as we look to the future, we want to keep looking both towards the markers as well as the things you can tangibly do to move those markers.
So you mentioned the alpha peak, and I have heard you talking about it on different podcasts. And is that a standardized metric in neuroscience, or that's something proprietary to you?
So alpha peak frequency is something that is standard in neuroscience, but not that commonly used. So the alpha peak, so your alpha waves are from 18 to 12 hertz. That's how you define alpha, but everybody has their own individual peak frequency. And when we look in literature, we did a big study with McMaster University, and they looked at Muse data, and they looked at the alpha peak frequency over time. And they were able to see that decade by decade, your alpha peak frequency decreases. And so we're able to build that into a marker that we now present to you in the Muse app. So I don't actually know of any other devices that give you this marker, but it is actually a normal marker in neuroscience to use, and it is able to show you what is happening on this frequency in your brain and how it tracks over time.
And that marker is already available to all the users, not just the researchers.
Exactly. So, the things that start in research roll out to all the users. So when you do 10 or more sessions, that gives us enough data to be able to process your alpha peak frequency. And from there, you can track it session on session.
Maybe to start wrapping up our conversation, I would love to ask you about what are your routines, because you seem to be very cautious about your health, and you helped a lot of people in the world to optimize their health as well. What are your routines that you keep, and what are some of the suggestions that you might share with others?
Oh, I love this. Okay, so first of all, sleep is crazy important to me. I go to sleep at about the same time every night, and I wake up at about the same time every morning, and I get 8 hours of good, solid sleep. It is really key and incredibly important for your brain health. I meditate when I fall asleep at night to downregulate my body and my mind and to help improve my sleep. I do a Muse session, and then in the morning when I wake up, I do a meditation, as I earlier mentioned, in bed. I don't generally recommend to people doing it in bed because some people just fall back asleep, but it works for me. And then I start my morning with bright in my eyes. So get light in my face, feel a sense of love. Sometimes I'll do a gratitude practice or profuse myself with feelings of love and joy. And then I go to my kids, give them big snuggles, and really soak in the deliciousness of life. I find that a wonderful way to start the day. Then, of course, it's all of the standard stuff that needs to be done. Basic hygiene, getting the kids ready for school, playing with my daughter, who's only 3, so she doesn't go to school yet, making sure everybody's eaten well. For eating, I focus on whole foods, so low sugar, whole foods. I love yerba mate instead of coffee to give me a little kick, and dark chocolate, but even that has a little too much sugar in it for me. I've sort of moved to 90%.
That's the one I like.
Yes. But then there's some, there's 70% that has like cherries in it and yummy things. And then you look at it and it's like, that was 9 grams of sugar in my 70% dark chocolate. What? So yerba mate is my latest. It puts a big smile on my face. I try to do a run in the morning as I send my kids to school. Now my son walks on his own to school, which is like a big next step. So that's, my run has shifted. And then settle down for my workday. And I'm a snacker. I don't know if that's good or bad. The jury is out whether you want to really intermittent fast throughout the day, but I'm a grazer. Other people say that grazing is good because then you are not having a large mitochondrial load with lots of oxyradicals being produced and you have more stable blood sugar. Jury's out, but I'm a snacker. Snacking being, celery, avocado, etc. And then I do intermittent fast overnight. So I stop eating usually at 6:30, 7 o'clock at the absolute very latest. And I don't eat again till usually 9:30 in the morning, unless I'm trying to convince my children to eat by eating along with them. So sometimes there's, you break your habits and you choose what your priorities are. So priority always goes to making sure the kids eat. And if that means I have to eat some food along with them so they see that that's what you should be doing, cool, I go for it. And in general, the pillars of my healthy day are meditation, good sleep, and exercise. So I've got girlfriends I exercise with. I've got kids that I exercise with. I throw the baby up and down in the air. And I try to really optimize my exercise time too, to be engaged with the people that I care about around me.
Well, it seems like you are very much dialed in. And I now have a lot of motivation to get back to meditation. Ariel, I wanted to thank you so much for a very insightful conversation. I wish you the best of luck with navigating the company going forward. You are doing something amazing for many, many, many people out there. And so I wish you the best in continuing doing so. And thank you so much for joining me for the chat.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. This was so much fun.
Thank you. And we'll be looking forward to catching up next time.
Look forward to it as well. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.